Okay, so I was playing the Link's Awakening for Switch on stream, and I wasn't able to get impressions because I was playing, a lot of the time. And it's a it's a it's a decent game. It. I mean, when it comes to the first thing controls that I think of, it's controls are fine. Controls are actually very responsive, and you have to use the sticks. I'm using the Pro controller, which means I'm using the two control sticks, and one control stick because you don't need the other one, and it works just fine. It's still giving me errors. How? I am literally physically connected into my internet, and I have no idea why it's doing that. But I was gonna have to deal. I don't understand. So so yeah. Uh, for example, if walking forward feels responsive, it is a little weird going on a 2D plane in a 3D sort of way because you don't go in a D-pad formation like you would in the original Zelda Game Boy version. You're allowed to go in a 360 sort of way, and so are the enemies. So you are definitely free to roam with that control stick. And I'm assuming if you have the Switch controllers, you could combine them together, and it would be sort of a D-pad sort of thing, which I think would be a little bit better because that's the way it was initially designed for the Game Boy anyway. So also when you press buttons, they do what they need to do. They do their animations, what they want to do. Um, Very occasionally, you can mess yourself up by having your hands on the stick. Sometimes, for example, I would use the hook shot a lot, and I would usually when I use the hook shot in other games, I pushed it forward. I pushed the D-pad or whatever forward, and then use the item. I would use the hook shot. In this one, it was when I when I flicked it to the right, it would suddenly go left, and I would do it again, it would still go to the left, and I'm like, why is it doing that? So it would kind of like annoy me, but it's only a minor inconvenience. Sometimes you can be near a hole, and you could drop in it, even though like you are clearly on the ground, and it still give me errors. I don't understand. I'd have to I'd have to view this afterwards. View this afterwards and be like, Of course, I'm not going to view it afterwards. I'm going to be like, whatever. If it ends up being choppy, it's just my voice, so I don't really care. I don't know why Twitch is being a jerk right now. It was a jerk last night, apparently. So I don't care. I don't know why. But, yeah, anyways. Let's see. The cartoonish style is good for probably a Game Boy port because it kind of looks like it without it being black and white and low polygon. I'm sure they look the sprites look the same. It's just that you can now view them in detail. They don't just have the sprite changes from one to another when they change directions. For example, if there was a fox or something in the old Game Boy game, it just had a sprite for going right, and then when it turned up to go, and when it turned to go up, it wouldn't change directions. It would change sprites, and it would go up. You would see it's behind, instead of it's walking animation to the right. In this one, it's all continuous, which I hope it is because it's a 2019 game, I think. I forgot how old this game is, but it's a. But if you ever played a 2D Zelda before, it's very much like that. You have to. The first few dungeons are easy to get to. They allow you to get the items you need to explore the rest of the world in various ways. I mean, the more tools you have, the more you can do. I mean, that's pretty much the trademark of any Zelda game or any really exploration game from Nintendo. Like in Metroid, you're not going to go there without this certain item. Or if you're really good at it, you can cheat. I'm sure there are many ways to do something, but sometimes you have to do it the way they intended it. Let's see. Yes, so oh, I don't like cheating. I welcome in, Seek, and yeah, I don't like cheating either. And is my can you tell me if my stream is dipping? Because I've gotten two error messages. Two error messages, and I am physically connected to my LAN cable. I don't know why this is happening. Like, it's dropping, it says it dropped a percentage. It dropped 28% in, but it doesn't matter anyway since I'm just chatting, but still, it's like, it's just so weird. I like my little animation thing. Yeah, my stream is dipping. It is double dipping. It looks okay. I don't understand it either. Maybe it's just OBS being flaky. I don't know. So, let's see. Yeah, so use the items. Different items have different effects. Like, the bombs always do what they do. You can throw the bombs. You have to buy arrows. You have to buy the bow. And so it's really expensive, so you don't get until late in the game anyway. I got it pretty mid-game because I was going around dungeons, and if you get enough secrets, you get a lot of money from dungeons. So what really is the big attraction of Zelda is the dungeons. Like, really. The difficulty of Zelda is not really trying to find the dungeon, but the dungeon themselves. And yeah, I just got another dip again. Let's see how much this time. 25%. I don't believe you. I don't believe you, OBS. Because, okay, back to the dungeons. Man, it's like OBS is a fact checker that I have to deny. Well then, welcome in, Seek. How are you doing today? And thank you for joining me on this occasion of listening. If I missed something, or yeah, let me know, or anybody else really. Like, for example, bombs are different from the arrows because the arrows just fly straight. They shoot stuff, and the bombs you can lay or you can carry and throw them somewhere else. Like, there are different ways different items react to different things. Like, you need to almost know the ins and out. Like, they don't really tell you how to use an item. You're supposed to just, this is how the item works. You can figure it out on your own. There is some hand holding when it comes to using items, because when they put you in a room with a new item, they usually in Zelda dungeons, they want you to use it right away to get out of a situation. Or, like, they'll put you against a mini boss or something that they have to use an item for. They're like, you better know how to use it. The boss may have the dungeon item in mind, but you never know. So it's like, I better have this item ready. Oh no, it's a red herring. Because sometimes they'll do it, sometimes they won't. So back to the dungeons. Like, of course, dungeons get progressively harder. They have different aesthetics, but the aesthetics almost doesn't matter to dungeons really. When it comes to this game, at least, because I'm always like, these dungeons kind of feel the same. It's just a bunch of tiles that are smushed together, but in just in different ways. It just feels like it was done because they had a lack of memory in the old games, so it feels very restrained when it comes to how the dungeons look and how they sort of function. But they still have their core mechanics of other Zelda dungeons, of their 2D dungeons, which is know how to use the item, get keys to go into doors, find the rest of the dungeon items, and then try to fight the boss. And each boss has a gimmick that you have to know about. If you don't know the gimmick, you're trying to figure out the gimmick. And usually, when it comes to Zelda games, figuring out the gimmick is actually the thing that gets you killed the most, instead of the boss fight itself. Would that's one of the things that I had to get used to again. Oh man, I can't remember any of the bosses really, except for the last one. But I don't know if I'm going to spoil that or not. But so yeah, you get the items come from dungeons, which let you explore more of the island. And I will say this: dungeons are a lot easier now because of not only the map, which you get in every Zelda game anyway, but also the compass will actually chime if you go into a door or a room. When you go through a door and enter a room, it will sound off an alarm, and you'll be like, okay, so there must be a chest in here or a key. You know, even if it doesn't, you might want to look for keys anyway. But still, it's just a good indicator. And also on the map, it'll let you know if you ran into a chest or an item that you missed. So with this combination, you don't really miss anything, but that's sort of the trap of Zelda games, is that you see this chest in the screen, and you're like, I want that chest, and you can't get it yet. Sometimes you have to come back for them. So I think when it comes to improvements, it's definitely a lot faster game. Like I remember people one of my followers showed me a video of this guy. Whenever he would just not get these thing called acorns, and the acorns give you a defensive boost for a short time. And then there's the sort of ruby pyramid thing that gives you an attack boost. And the text took so long for that doing the Game Boy. You're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to get these anymore. And now it's like, it barely takes any time in the Switch version. With the yeah, that's a thing that's new for me too. I didn't know that you had power-ups in this game. That was interesting. So I'm like, okay, instead of getting rubies, you get power-ups. Like, that's not a bad thing. In fact, at the very end of the game, I was like, I'm sick of rupees. I don't need them. And it would still give me like 50 rupees in a chest, and I'm like, hooray. I'd rather have a small key. No need to buy anything. Yeah, just steal it. By the way, if you steal it from the shopkeep, he'll take it out of your hide. Like, he will send a descending chickens upon you, and you will die. And then it'll be game over. Steal! Real steal. Not like those fake steals. So yeah, one of the most noteworthy things about the dungeon is that they don't really have anything to offer that's really different. Which is actually one of the big criticisms I ever have of Link to the Past and most, I guess, 2D Zeldas in general, is that dungeons sort of feel the same after a while, except if they have a floor gimmick. Like Ice Castle's gonna be, guess what? It's gonna be slippery and have a ice aesthetic. It's really hard to change the aesthetics of a dungeon, or to be creative, I guess, because it's like, I can't really. But Link to the Past is still a lot better aesthetically with their puzzles and the difference in their different than dungeons than Link's Awakening was, because all that was maybe the floor looks different, And that's about it. Yeah, it's not. And then they have 8 dungeons, which I didn't know. I thought they only had like 6. I was like, oh, there's 8 dungeons. And I will say that oh no, I yawned on stream. Oh, I'm so excited. The I did play Oracle of Time. Oracle, no. It's not Oracle of Seasons. It's Oracle of Ages. That's what it, Oracle of Ages. And yeah, it's a lot like that. If you because you have to do all these side quests versus his items. Like this guy needs a piece of paper, and you give him a piece of paper, and he gives you a bone, and you give the bone to the dog. You know, all this other stuff. And it has a very same song style. It's great. I mean, like, they don't have the normal Zelda theme? Oh, no, stop it. The trading game? What? You mean like there's a blue and a red version? Sort of. Because Oracle of Ages was the first one, and then the sequel to that was Oracle of Seasons. And that's sort of the same thing as like Link's Awakening. It had the same thing. What you want? What? Oh yeah. The whole thing was like yeah, they had that in the Oracle of Ages. But you see, the reward for doing that in Oracle of Ages is that you got a better sword, and it was very good. Like it's not necessary, but it's like it's a good reward for doing all this monotonous work of trying to find people. And in Link's Awakening, you get a magnifying glass. It never was useful. I don't see how it was useful. And I'm like, if you want to do it, that's fine. If you want to be a completionist, go for it. Finding when it comes to hearts in this game, you got to go find 4 pieces of heart, like in Link to the Past. You have to check everything, and man, what else? The you can get in fact you can. So when it comes to the man, I'm trying to see if I can cover almost everything that I can cover. When you're talking about the map is. I wish I had this map in some Zelda games that were new, and I kind of did it too late. But you can mark stuff on your map like it's a Metroidvania or something. Like if you ever played Hollow Knight or it's not Insidious, it's Blasphemy or something like that. You can put markers on your map with different shapes and stuff. You can do that in this game. It's a really good feature, and you can do this inside dungeons. And you have to remove them yourself if you don't want them to be there anymore. So it's very good stuff. And as long as you have a pattern of what represents what, or you can actually like do that. Like for example, the circle could mean a bombing place you can't get to yet, or there's a heart one, and you can put where you saw a heart in a cave, and you can put a heart on the map. It's like so you don't ever forget it. It's such a good feature, especially in a open world sort of game, even if it's 2D. I mean, like 2D top down. I don't know. Like, that's true. Like, I guess it's a 2D game. There's technically no third dimension for you to look at. But when I say 2D, I mean platformer, I guess. But in this case, Zelda 2D is the top down way it is, which is this Zelda is, yeah. And speaking of, it does have a story, and it's kind of so I'm gonna, in order for me to get through the game properly, I'm probably gonna have to spoil the game. So if you don't want to know, you're kind of up crap peak, I guess. Crap peak. You're up crap peak, aka Celeste. Like, I still want to do that video of Celeste is just the future of the future of Undertale. but anyways, that would be on. I think that might be an April Fool's video. That would be hilarious. And so the whole story is you're going through a storm, like you're the Avatar at the beginning of season 3. And I don't understand why he's out there, but that's not the point. The point is that, see, Link is drawn to destiny, like a moth to a flame. No, I wouldn't say moth to a flame. It's more like he is drawn to it unintentionally, all the time. Like, for example, his uncle gets killed, and then he has to pick up the sword in the Link to the Past. In Ocarina of Time, he has to go into the future, and one of the best endings, by the way, is Ocarina of Time, is where he has to say goodbye to the life he just knew and go back to being a child. Such a good ending. That's a really good ending. Or the you know what I mean. He is drawn to destiny, and so where his destiny goes on to this island, where he gets picked up on the beach by Marin. And I think this is the first mention of Marin in a game ever. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm just guessing that this is where Marin comes from, and that's why they use her in every single game afterwards. But she finds you, and you're in this village, and there's a whole bunch of dialogue in the village. It's like, did you know you could do this? Like, how do I know that? Don't ask me. I'm just a kid. And I'm like, what? Like, what kind of dialogue is that? Like, okay. I'm sure it's just funny to hear from a... it's almost like it's breaking the fourth wall, but it's really not. You know? It's sort of like how... what's his face did the Muppets or something. When they look at the camera and say something, it's sort of like that, but they're still in the movie. Man. So you go on your quest, and after a while, after doing all this stuff, because this owl tells you to, because I think this is also where the owl comes from. If it's not in the original game, I don't know. If anyone's out there can tell me if the owl is in the original Link's Awakening, then that would mean it was before Ocarina of Time. In fact, this may Link's Awakening could have been before Link to the Past, so it could have had an influence on that as well. Still, you go around, and after a while, one of the monsters is like you go into this cave. Actually, you go into this cave that says like the island is but a dream, which it is confirmed that like we don't know what this means, and then the monster just plain says it out. Like one of the bosses is like, when he dies, he's like, if you destroy us, the island will disappear because it is but a dream. And it turns out that these monsters are really representative of the whale's nightmares. but he's still dreaming of the island and everybody on it. And he says it's the wind fish. I wonder if that's the same one in Wind Waker. Eh. But anyways, and so you do realize that the more the more you do things, the more you realize that you are putting this island to an end, and it doesn't really force it down your throat. It sort of lets you just kind of roll it over in your head a little bit. This island is but merely. This island is but a dream. It's almost like it's very Lovecraftian in a way, because everything goes back to Lovecraft these days. But this was, I think, is unintentional. But the whole thing about Lovecraft is that he would talk about how these higher beings can send dreams to people, and or even the world being a dream itself. For example, Cthulhu is called the Dreamer, I think, or something like that, because it's been a while since I've read my RPG book based off Call of Cthulhu, which is, by the way, one of the best RPGs you'll ever play, because it is just brutal. People go in wanting to die. I mean, not on purpose, but it's like they want to hear how they die, and GMs are like, I'm going to put every detail into it. It is so cool. But anyways, the whole thing is that, like, he sleeps, Cthulhu sleeps on an island of R'lyeh, and it wanders here and there. You know, it's like, oh, okay then. And not only that, the way that the island is dreamt of is also very Lovecraftian, because there's this being called Azathoth, which is said by in the Lovecraft lore that if he ever were to wake up, the universe would stop existing because he dreamt it into existence. He is a nuclear chaos. So, yeah. It just reminds me of all that. I'm not sure this is intentional or not. But it's just like, this is where I go with my thoughts. And, but yeah. So during the end, it's like it's nightmares, but we're still living beings. We don't want to disappear. And you're making the island disappear, but I'm assuming Link needs to be somewhere. Like, he was on the ocean for a reason? I don't know. It's really hard to tell. But, yeah, you still need to wake him up. And he's singing that song. And even Marin is like, don't forget me when you leave the island. So, I wonder if it still exists somewhere in his head. You know, like, the island follows him in his head all the time. I'm sure it will come back, because this huge whale thing has got to sleep sometime. So, I don't know, maybe when he sleeps it'll be inside his head and he's like, oh, what a nice place. But yeah, that's just the way it goes. It's kind of this tragedy that you kind of do yourself. Instead of you being the hero, you're not the antagonist, but you're definitely not the hero. You're not an anti-hero, it's just that you're just doing the Al's bidding, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of like if you hear the owl say, may you kindly defeat the whale's nightmares, you know, and stuff like that. Like it's BioShock. Why'd you kindly? Oh man. So the monsters themselves are also greatly designed, and they have and you have certain mechanics when it comes to gameplay. For example, in the original game, I think you had separate items for your shield and sword, but with more, you had to equip your sword with the B, and then you had to equip the shield with the A. So if you wanted to do something, you had to disequip everything, and I remember doing that in the Oracle of Ages, and it sucked. That was so, it was so tedious. But in this one, in the Switch version, since you have more buttons, you always have your sword, you always have your shield, and all you had to do was block with your shield with the right triggers, and then you would run with the left triggers when you got the Pegasus boots, and then you swing your sword with the B button. You use X and Y to use your items, and then you use A to pick up stuff pull, push if you need to. But pushing is automatic. Jumping off stuff is automatic. You can actually jump in this game because of the Roc's Feather. Roc's Feather is really good. I like the Roc's Feather. It's really hard to justify that in a 3D Zelda game. Because you can backflip in that game. Oh, man. Stretchies. With all the things that were... Yeah. And with the shield, I have no idea. Like, are you talking about this picture? I guess I don't care. It's like, here's the thing. Like, Link is so adept that he could change hands. Like, because it's not the same character all the time. It's not the same version, but it's still the same sort of. It's like a reincarnation. True. Okay, yeah. I got very dizzy. I don't know why I got dizzy, but I am sitting in this chair looking at the screen. I'm like, dizzy. Yeah, when talking about monsters, for example, there's Octoroks, and then there's simpler kind of like I think they're called Moblins. I think, but with those orcish looking dudes, they're orcs. They're probably talking about like I don't know. They look like orcs, but they're like pigs. I'm thinking of Lord of the Rings or something. A Marin be like, Link, what does your elf eyes see? And Link looks. He's like, they're taking the Triforce to Isengard. Even though he's not an elf, he's a Hylonian. Let's see. So for example, when it comes to you and the monsters, some of them notice you and chase after you. Some of them will throw stuff at you, which you can block with your shield. Your shield is remarkably good in this game. You can block so much damage with this shield. It's crazy. I have been locked in a corner while raising my shield, and it just blocks all damage, even though he's hitting me repeatedly, until something else happens. I have never been. I was never soft locked ever. So that's good. It runs smoothly. I mean, they've had like a bunch of practice trying to make this game because all they had to do was remake it. Let's see. Yeah, so each enemy is dealt with differently, has different attacks, and there's barely any like consistency to bad guys being in what version of dungeon. Like, remember those snakes from Zelda 1 that chase after you when you look at them? You know? They're even a Link to the Past in the beginning, and they're in a dungeon. It makes sense. They're snakes. But these easy snakes are in like the 8th dungeon as enemies. And they're like so easy to defeat, and they look dumb. They look like what are those? Are those like? And it took me like an hour to be like, oh, those are snakes. They chase after me. Oh, because usually they're like cobras. Now they're like they look like worms. And I'm like, yeah, that's the most non-threatening thing I've ever seen in my life. And they're just as non-threatening, so why are they in a high-level dungeon? Like, they don't do anything. They don't do anything. I always feel like, sometimes monster design is really weird. Like, sometimes it is. Like, for example, I didn't know there were zombies. I thought they were moles, but they're zombies. It's just that the reason why I thought they were moles because they're brown and they have no hair. And the hair strands that they have are on top, so I was like, oh, and they're digging in the ground, like, oh, they're moles. No, they're zombies. Because I started to get a good look at them, and they're like, oh, they have like human faces or something. And they're near a graveyard, which I found pretty strange for moles. So it's like, oh, I'm just an idiot, I guess. I don't know. It's like I didn't put that together. Like, but other than that, you can recognize any enemy because they have great facial recognition. They face recognition. What does that mean? You recognize the faces a little bit better. Oh, I need a stand-up break. I don't know why, but I'm just getting dizzy for some reason. I'll just look at Link for a little while. Yeah, there he goes. Whee. It's kind of funny when you watch a GIF, you're like, I wanted to do something different. But still, now when the game came out, I believe it was $60, and I'm like, that's not worth it. No, this game is way too short. I mean, the base game, if you want to go around and explore, you get many hours out of it. But even at 40, I'm like, I don't know. If they dropped it to 30, I'd be like, yep, $30. Go get it. It's a fun enough game. You can play this on the road. It's that easy, like to play on the road. Speaking of easy, this game is really easy too. It's only the last boss that I died to once. And another boss I almost died to, but I didn't because I had a revive on me, and I used my and I had and I had a bottle with the fairy in it, so I used that. So I didn't feel threatened at all by anything because I always had a get out of jail free card. Not only that, inside the dungeons they give you heart pieces for free. And it's 3 heart pieces. And I'm like, this is way too generous. All you have to, and you can abuse these things too. If you go to a certain section of the dungeon, you can come back and get it again. And I'm like, wow, this is too easy. So that's why the puzzles are a little bit difficult, I guess. Because sometimes I find most frustrated with puzzles because you have to keep in mind upstairs and downstairs sometimes. You had to get one item to next item. Like, how do I do that? You know, and you can get lost sometimes. The map isn't always the safest bet to use. Because you have to keep track of what's up. And of course, the more as more of the dungeons go on, the more difficult they are in puzzles. I'm not talking about enemies, because sometimes the enemies are the problem. Like when you first encounter Wizrobes, we'll have no idea what to do. Shoot them with arrows. In fact, you're going to need arrows by the end. So, and they cost like the bow is like 900 rupees. You can get that really quickly, by the way, and have tons to spare. Don't worry about spending too much money. Because, believe it or not, you go to the crane game inside the village and just repeatedly gain money. As long as you're not crap at it, you're good. Get a whole bunch of stuff in that crane game. It's worth it. Like, there are collectibles in this game. They're called seashells, and when you get enough seashells, you get I think you get an upgrade for your sword. I'm not sure. I didn't go all the way with the seashells. I was halfway up, and you would have to find a lot more. But yeah, there were some places I couldn't find a way into. Like they had pits. I'm like, how do I get in that pit? How do I do this? Of course, they were like a bunch of ways to do things. I'm running out of words, apparently. I do like the point where you take Marin with you and you pick her up like an item. Like da 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 da. I'm like, oh okay, this is my prize, gentlemen. Link is canceled because he because he carries women. They are but inventory to him. Oh my goodness, it's weird. But hey, it's not. There's no such thing as an escort mission in this game, unless you count like carrying a piece of rock with you, and so you can knock down pillars. Because if you throw it down a chasm, it goes back to its original position. And I'm like, no. Some of the puzzles were annoying indeed, but it's fine. Last boss was a pain in the butt, but I only died to him once, as I said, and then I went back, kicked his butt because I knew what I was doing. Well, somewhat. He does take the forms of some like Link to the Past bosses too, and I'm like, that's nice. He turns into Agnaham, I think, is his name, and then the last Ganon fight. And I'm like, oh okay. How do I know who Ganon is? How? You never been there. Never been to Hyrule. Hyrule? Shit. Alright. Well, would I recommend this game for purchase? None if it's not $30. Because I don't... it's kind of funny if I don't do that. And I don't think there's just enough content for it, really. I mean, it's good for a car ride. That's the thing about the Switch, though. Every game that's for Nintendo, I'm like, it'd be good with a car ride. That I've seen so far. Like Pokemon Sword I bought. And that game was... I gave that a 7 out of 10 when it came out. I should have went lower. I should have went 5. That game sucks. But this game is good. It's just not worth $60. I'd say 40. Yeah, maybe I'll change mine to 40. $40 is fine. I mean, it's worth that. You can beat it in a dedicated week if you really wanted to. It's for your first time. If it's the first Zelda, it actually would help you out to getting into Zelda, because this Zelda is really easy. Like, and it's not too daunting of a task. Like, the map is really short. It's really, really short. And it's island that it's not that hard to find your way through. You just have to use your brain and follow your gaming instincts. Let's see. So, how long did it take me? I don't know. It took me about probably 15 hours or so. I think. It probably took me longer than that, since I took like 3-hour streams to do it, and I had like 5 parts to it. So yeah, about 15 hours. 20 if you're really want to dig through it a little bit more than I did. I'm just want to find everything. That'll probably take you months to do. So it's packed with some content. Like you can find a lot to do, but just don't expect the greatest things from it since it is coming from an old property. But still, with this advancements and all that stuff, it's worth the $40 price tag. I'd say. I don't know if you should buy it at all, really. I mean, if someone said like, "Okay, I have $40, should I buy this game?" It's worth $40, but should you buy it with the $40 that you have? Is what I mean. I'd be like, "Do you have a PC? Do you have a PC?" There's a lot better games out there. Like, this is not the game I would spend $40 on. Like, if I had the $40 to spend on a game, one game, this wouldn't be it. Like, I'd rather get Hollow Knight or like Celeste or Blasphemous or go play Link to the Past again. It's it's a better game. It's better structured. It's a little more difficult. It doesn't hold your hand as much. But still, if you ever get stuck, you can always use a guide because guides are always there for you. There's no shame in using the guide when you're stuck. If you use a guide from the beginning and you stop playing games, stop it. You don't get to do that. Yeah, so I guess that's it because I can't think of it. Well, what? It's kind of funny. What would I give a rating of this? Again, like Pokemon Sword, I think I give it a 7 because it's good, but it's not great. You know, it's definitely. Huh? Gotta look for next hour. Oh, that's okay. I think I'm going to. I think I'm gonna go here in a second anyway. So this was just a quickie, just to get out my thoughts on Link's Awakening and try to go through my thoughts of it without playing it. So yeah, so I'll definitely give it a 7. That's actually a 7 is not bad at all because it's definitely how I feel about it. Its content is rich, but not rich enough that I would sink hours into it. Like, I don't know. It just feels like that. I don't want to sink hours into it. But if you're a Zelda fanatic, you would definitely do it. It's great for that. It's great for car rides. Let me tell you. I mean, this would be great for. It's simple. You can take your time. You don't need to hurry up at all, and you can just explore at your leisure. It'd be great for car rides and stuff like that, or vacations, or like if you had nothing better to do on vacation, just be like, I'm gonna play some Link's Awakening, I guess. So yeah, that's about it. And I don't know if you're informed about the game or not, but it's definitely something to consider. It shouldn't be ignored at all. Like it's a solid title. Just I'd rather pick up one of the masterpieces that take its ideas and actually runs with it. All right. Well, see you guys later, and we're probably going to